we are comforted to know that we've been forgiven our sins and that we can live another day, and then also reminisce as well as hope for the best, really.
Before we move on to the issues of perhaps what the budget presents, I wanted to find out from you. We're just speaking to the ranking member on Parliament's Works and Housing Committee on this new housing project as against what the President is saying about the Saglemi Housing Project. First of all, what do you make of the choices that are being made by the government in this regard? Because the President is saying, instead of spending money on Saglemi, I've decided that I'm going to spend money here. This is much more cost effective for me. What do you think?
Well, it's the age-old tradition of politicians trying to initiate projects so that they can also get their kickbacks. I mean, that's plain and simple. That's exactly what this is. I mean, otherwise, does this make sense? You are in an economic hole that you dug for us, and you are still digging by such stupid, adventures. I mean, I don't understand it. I'm sorry, I'm using the word. It's all in our culture that sometimes we don't use such words. Clearly, it's still stupidity. I mean, otherwise, it's also a method to the stupidity, which essentially is that, well, we'll start our own project and then make milk, get our 10% cut. That's it. Otherwise, there's no better way to describe this, really. Maybe I should drop the word stupid. I think it's organized. It's an organized, project to also not just get your 10 or 20%, but also to be labeled as this is also my project that I started. Then you don't complete it before you leave office, and then all of a sudden we have all these projects littered all over the places in the names of former presidents, and then we are happy. Is that the legacy you want to leave? I don't understand. You came to meet Saglemi. Yes, I understand that the economics of Saglemi did not also somehow make sense when it comes to what constitutes affordable housing. I think they should even drop the word affordable, right? Then you come, and what the first thing you need to do is to spend time to understand the dynamics of it, and then try to work on it. You spent how many years? Almost 6 years talking about Saglemi. Saglemi is corrupt. Saglemi is this. Saglemi is that. You've done nothing except to talk plenty, and then now the whole thing is lying there rotting. I don't think that's sensible management. That is wasteful management. And I thought that under economic atrophy that we have saddled ourselves with, largely superintended by the Akufo-Addo regime, I don't see why we should continue on this negative path. I may understand that, yes, the contracting party for this one obviously is a different entity, as in the people going to pay for it is a different entity, but it still doesn't constitute. It's not a free project. Do you understand? It's not a project you are going to undertake where you are going to give the houses to people free. It's not free. So I'd have thought that the sensible thing to do is to look at the Saglemi, exhaust every available option or opportunity, and get the buildings done. If you feel that you can't call it affordable housing, well, do it, sell it to the highest bidder, and then use those savings to start what you are not describing as affordable housing. In any case, what is really affordable? In my estimation, something affordable should not be more than $10,000. I mean, that's the way I see it. If go and put up a building and you're already charging 25 to 30,000, that's no longer affordable for people. Of course, it depends on this part of the social ladder you're looking at. But I mean, 10,000, 15,000 max should be something that could be done. Of course, it also depends on the dynamics in the economy. But if you solve the materials and you're building in large quantities, it is called scale, economics of scale. Then you are able to, as it were, negotiate properly and build it for that type of pricing. I have a friend who is into real estate, and I think he was putting something like that up for some workers of GRE at a place that I know. And I think at the time it was just around $11,000 thereabout, or 10,000 max really. So that's what you call affordable. And you see, anything government gets involved with, you should just be suspicious. I mean, that this that you are starting affordable housing when your presidency, these are lame duck president, and he's starting projects that he will not see through, just like the cathedral, right? Did I hear someone say that they need $800 million for the cathedral? I, look, um, it just doesn't make sense. Let's just leave it at that. There's nothing affordable about this except a creation, an enterprise being created to say that this is also my legacy. Would the president be happy leaving legacies of unfinished projects? Doesn't make sense. This Agenda 111 is also another interesting adventure. You're going to spend money and you're driving this whole thing and you're wasting everybody's time when you don't even have to put up those hospitals in every district. Sensible management will just tell you that, look, put up a good hospital that can straddle two districts, and people can, and then get good roads and let people fly those things. You don't need to put a hospital in every district. I don't get it. It's not as if there are no clinics. It's the same argument we made about these drones thing, and people did not understand us. We were just saying that drones are fine to deliver medicines, but don't you think it is sensible to build depots in strategic areas that districts, when connected good routes, can access medicine? What's the point in dropping medicines all over the place for facilities that are not even there to administer? I don't know how we think in this part of our world. Seriously, yes, Anna, according to say Bruninu Wanyan Sanchez, it's not the case. It's just stupidity. Sorry, I'm using the word again. So, Sena, Charlie, these things. But as I said, it's an organized enterprise to also not just leave a legacy on an unfinished project, but also just cream some 10 or 20%, and then we are fine. I mean, that's what it is. I'm frank, so I just say it as it is.
That's all it sounds like, because the amounts being mentioned, 13,500 for a studio type, 23,000 by 23,000 for a 1 bedroom. 2 bedroom goes for over 34,000, all in dollars. So that clearly does not fit into your affordable scheme.
2 bedroom for how much? $34,000.
Yes.
I mean, if you are building over 4,000 or 5,000 of these units, that's not a good price at all. I think that should be somewhere around 22,000 or 21,000. Don't forget, I did an economy, right? I still know my valuation. If you're able to build such modest houses and you are building them in large quantities, clearly, I mean, it depends. Well, it depends on the location, but I assume that, you see, what this partnership should be about is that the government provides land, it services the lands, and so maybe the value of that may have been taken away. But I think clearly 25,000 will do for a 2-bedroom house, especially because you are building it on a large scale. For a 1-bedroom, yes, max 10,000. That could be useful, at least with good amenities there as well. So, however I look at it, question we should ask ourselves: well, are you really ready? Are you sure you are going to complete this project in the record time before you leave office? How many months did they say they'll complete it? I must admit, I've seen the headline. I only saw the number of houses they said they were going to build. But I didn't take into consideration the number of years they'll complete it, because that is also very important. And as I said, would it be a social housing or commercial housing? Which means, are you giving these on social rents, as in very little would be paid by people who eventually may be on a mortgage? All those questions are very important to be answered. But the fundamental point really is, why not finish one that you claim has problems, but for which could be sold for good value, and then cream up those some funds and then use it for the so-called affordable housing. So, my brother, these things, I don't think we are in this country, right? We've seen all these hospitals that are hanging, even the schools that Mahama built. didn't it take an arm and a leg in order to get some of them to even be run? I don't know why we do these things to ourselves. I don't know why we do these things to ourselves. It's not fair. That's not fair. But you see, government money, what you see, there's the principle of the tragedy of the commons. What belongs to you, you tend to take care of it. What belongs to everybody tends to fall into disrepair because nobody wants to take care of it properly. And I don't think that's the way we should approach it at all. If we are money, I don't think it's the president's own money that he was using for these kinds of projects. He was going to apply the same wasteful energy that is actually superintended over the Saglemi.
And talking about projects, because I realized we were even talking about the Agenda 111 among others. In the media budget 2023, you know, one of the things we've had discussions about this, food prices and inflation. The proposal from the finance minister is that we do a phase 2 of planting for food and jobs to do with the matter of food prices and inflation. Is that a good idea?
Well, whatever phase 2 actually means, we may have to all look at it and discuss it properly, because I don't. There's a difference between intentions and execution. As you know, PFJ 1 led us into the government now selling food at the so-called Donkomi prices. You see that joke ended it ended immediately, but it wasn't sustainable. I don't know whether it is important to invest in proper value chains rather than commandeer the sale of what is called food products or food produce and be selling it to people in the city. So until I see what the phase 2 actually means, I think I heard something about giving support to fertilizers, so certain additives, something to that extent. You know, the most important thing really I heard had to do with these fertilizer subsidies, which I suspect must be done away with, because again that introduces what I call rent seeking, and then people who are supposed to get these additional supplements actually do not get them. So I don't know what plan there is really, except to say that, look, my brother, if food inflation obviously is the number one, food inflation is actually the driver of inflation properly in this country. I think rather than spread yourself by this PFJ project where you give so many farmers bits and pieces, why don't you focus on those who are doing bigger stuff, large-scale stuff, those who can produce in large quantities, and give them the support? Not long ago, my good friend Senor Osi was complaining that the ministry, you send them whatever, they hardly reply, and he was blasting them all over the place. They had to respond. When he replied, they didn't come back again. When people who are doing big stuff, whose farms have the multiplier effect of reducing food prices, and you don't see to them, or you don't engage them and give the support, and rather for the sake of politics spread the support so thin and all over the place, there's no way you're going to achieve scale. There's no way that scale you want would ever impact on food prices. I don't know how we think in this part of our world. I mean, you think that how many millions of Americans are in farming in America? Of course, that's mechanized, but you see that there are few of them, but they are very productive. You know, farmers are now deploying even AI in order to deal with weeds that are not needed on farms in America, because it's large scale, and they do the value analysis, and you realize that if they get that type of support for 100 acre or 200,000 acres, you can do the quantification and realize how much it is going to impact on food. And indeed, I saw something that had to do, I think, with eggs in America. There was a few months ago. The price of eggs was also one of the things they normally calculate in their food basket. And a decision was taken that, look, we need to target those who are into large-scale egg production and give them the support. I think that has impacted somehow positively, and the economic indicator, as far as eggs go in America, there's been a turnaround. But we are not turning around here. We are turning around with institutions that have to give us, that have to supervise that government do not waste money, actually participating in the waste, like the Bank of Ghana. I mean, I respected Mr. Addison so much. I think he's been overwhelmed. He's allowed the politics to take over. And unfortunately, they've railroaded the Bank of Ghana into one of the most wasteful enterprises, government enterprises in the system. And to think that they would be setting the policy rate at 30%. Who in his right senses would ever think that they will make a profit if they are borrowing already at a base rate of 30%? Why? If the central bank had been wise enough not to splurge that 60 billion Ghana cedis, they would have invested that money in profitable enterprises. Those profitable enterprises would mean that the rate of inflation or the rate at which they give money to these commercial entities would have come down, right? If otherwise, just give them the bulk of the money and let them do the right things. This whole idea of trying to spread ourselves so thin and ensure that PFJ works for every farmer in every nook and cranny is completely not right at all. I don't think that we can achieve skill by doing that. I don't think so. And that's the way, you see, that's the way this administration's politics has always been, really. It's about Yanchendi. So, like, well, a lot of people will eat some. And then, at the end of the day, you realize that the whole thing is commandeered at some center. And then they distribute the things small, and there's total waste. Look at this one village, one dam. Complete nonsense, my brother. You decide that you are putting dams everywhere. Where dams are not even needed, you went and dug holes. And things that will cost just about 10,000 or 20,000 in certain places, you said it's 250,000. That ministry that was created was the single most wasteful enterprise my good friend Akufo-Addo had supervised. The Ministry of Special Development Initiative. Even though it no longer exists in name, its members are all over the place at the presidency. So you see all these staffers going around, walking around with books under their armpit, doing nothing. And then collecting money and wasting everybody's time that they are working. I don't think we need to organize ourselves that way at all. You see, so the things you've done do not inure to the benefit of this so-called PFJ Phase 2. You need to overhaul the entire architecture of this PFJ thing that you wanted to do, from the irrigation, which obviously was not done properly, up to warehousing, which obviously also had problems, fertilizer support, which obviously some of them ended up in our neighboring countries because the economics do not make sense, right? You give it away at whatever prices, and then some highway middlemen hijack the thing and then go and sell and make profit. We know these things. I don't think people at the helm of affairs are stupid. You see, let's not. One of the things we should be discussing is the thought that if you see something that doesn't make sense, even though we describe it as nonsense, in actual fact, it is methodical. There's a method to the stupidity. Really, that's the point I'm trying to make. And that method is to cream off waste, and everybody is still looking up to you. Oh, okay, Osade, you, Nana, they are coming to help us. Then they give you peanuts and you run around and be supporting them. When in actual fact, they can just target and give to those who need. And that skill would spread and everybody will be impacted. So it's a multiplicity of things. So PFJ cannot work in isolation if the central bank is misbehaving, wasting money, when instead of using that money to support the very enterprises that can help scale and then reduce food prices and food inflation. It's interconnected, and that's the way we should see our governance. We can't just say one party doing one thing and the other one doing something else. So this PFJ must be anchored on a phalanx of sensible policies that all come together when you are looking at the proper policy. That's the coordination we don't do in this part of our world, and it's worrying. Something I actually credit Mahama for. You see, look, yes, we criticize John for several things. The thing about John is that he understands. I said John is one of the presidents we've had in this republic who understood the interconnectedness of policy making better than any of them. Seriously. But maybe Kufuor comes closer. Kufuor also did understand quite a lot. But since then, I think Mahama has been the one that actually understands policy. And of course, there's a difference between understanding policy and the reality. So that's why we had challenges at that time. But look at the challenges we had compared to the ones we are having right now. It's a pale shadow, really. And when I saw a video where some young men were, teaching basic economics, and that's the beauty of those videos, right? People don't get it. It's not about the high-falutin language, speaking whatever, big English that makes you sensible. It's not at all. When they say explain the economy between then and now, those variables that those young men use in the video, and I hope that video will be shared millions all over the country, because they were the definitive definition of sensible economics. Common sense economics are called it. Because these guys essentially were telling us that during Muhammad's time, the city did not go beyond 4. Yes, it did not. Now, where are we? We are wobbling around 12, 13 thereabout, right? Inflation was never 20, I don't know, I forgot, but it never went to 20% or whatever it is. Whatever it is, it never got to 25 or 30, not at all. This one went to a dizzying height of 52 point something, and it's still scraggling around 40, 44. As if there's, when a plane is trying to taxi and there's a problem at it's either there's a weather challenge and so can't land, it circles and circles and circles. That's how inflation is circling in this country. Inflation is circling as if there's a problem at the tarmac or there's a problem with the weather. So it's around 42 point something. Then it comes down a bit, then it oscillates and goes. Never, right? So we need to learn from the likes of John, who understands, he really understands that interconnected of politics. And of course, if he has the sensible people he put together, I hope when he wins, well, I say when he wins, because that's what the data is suggesting. Well, if he doesn't get up his loins and that's what is needed, and we also think that the thing is settled, they may have challenges. But if he wins, is the more conservative expression I should be using. If he wins, he should make sure that the people he surrounds himself with, and I've seen a few of them that I'm a bit comfortable, must be people who understand policy and drive policy. Somebody like Alistus Mahama, who used to be my lecturer, by the way. I mean, yeah, top-notch guys. Bawa, my good friend as well, Joyce. We need people who understand these things to enter coordination. That's one gift John has. If he can bring that to bear, if he wins, then we'll start seeing some of the challenges we are facing unwinding. But of course, it will take a lot more, because the hole that has been dug, it's not easy yet to now say we are turning around the corner. The corner has been turned. You've not turned anywhere, so stop praising yourself. You've not turned anywhere.
So you disagree with the turning the corner thing?
Well, when you are riding the car that has an axle that is stiff naked, like, I'm trying to use that expression. I forgot the expression. Those when you are driving the way, you see those cars that even though they are pointing right, they're actually going left. You see those type of cars.
Yes.
So assuming they are turning around the bend, you can imagine how they will be looking like. While they are turning around the bend, they're actually getting too close to the edge and probably getting into a ditch. That's where we are right now. So you have a car whose axle is slanted and is trying to make a bend, but in doing the bend, it is so difficult that it's obviously cranking the steering, and it's just so difficult. That's where we are right now. All the indicators that were given for the basis, shown to us as the basis for which the so-called turnaround have not been met. Have they been met? Import cover of 3 months is barely 3 weeks, right? Inflation target of about 18 or something percent. We are doing 42, almost 43%, right? What is it again? Some of the other indicators I really forgotten, but none of them has been met. So you can't be beginning to say you are turning around the corner. In fact, what you should be saying is that you are in a survival mode. Survival before growth. Because what it means right now is that had the IMF not come and given us this oxygen of survival, we wouldn't even have the temerity, we wouldn't have the breadth and the temerity to say that you're turning around the corner. But of course, it's good to sell. Politicians like to sell hope, really. even though one can be hoping against hope. I can understand that having undiluted hope is baseless and is not wise. But, well, we live on hope as human beings, so we can understand that. But the reason why I'm worried is that when you start saying you're turning around the corner, then you're trying to give excuse to your base that, oh, even though things are crazy, there's still hope. Those are things you can't gloss over with Bible verses. It just doesn't happen. You just got to do the real work. And make sure while you are doing it, don't begin to look out for opportunity to sledge money in an election. All these things they are doing, this so-called affordable housing, this Agenda 111, and all of that, those are our election winners. But I'm sure Ghanaians will see through the pranks because those things will not be completed in time. You know, just as the cathedral, I said the cathedral will never be completed before the president leaves office. And I'm sure it will never be built in his lifetime. It's not going to happen. So let's just settle with that as well. So, you know, it's always a great conversation with you.
Well, it's always interesting speaking to you, by the way. I just wanted to, you talk about the Bank of Ghana in a certain manner. There's been suggestion that watching Dr. Addison run the Bank of Ghana over the past few years has been quite disappointing. That it is time he goes, because he certainly does not have the mettle to stand up to the politicians and make sure the right things are done.
Well, what I know is that when he started off quite well. Let's be clear. I mean, he started off quite well. Unfortunately, he's not been able to look the finance minister in the eye and say, "No, I'm not going to do this." And that's one of the things Mr. Atta had. You know, when we used to do our public rankings of officials, we call them the most inspirational public sector officers. Governor at the time, Mr. Atta, actually was one of the top 5 performers, which we published. You can Google it, you see it. And we said he was one of the most outstanding public officers, just 5 at the time, because during his time, I remember, I think before then, the finance minister. Yeah, and there were certain things he was able to do in spite of what maybe my good friend Dufour wanted to do. Dufour obviously understood the politics that, look, maybe these are arrears things paying to contractors. Maybe there are challenges. If I pay now, there will be challenges along the way. But I think Mr. Atta someone stood his ground and said, look, I'm not going to have this thing sitting on the books and then having a challenge with everything else. So could you please pay these arrears in time so that I clear them off my books? Just to say that he was a gentleman who looked dour, but again executed his work really, really well. You know, and those are the sort of examples we need. My good, I don't know this man quite well though, but I know he started off quite well, and he was completely overwhelmed. One of the things I learned, I remember when I was given some of these rare opportunities to travel with the British government. We met at I met the Director of Development of the Central Bank of England, and in our conversation, one of the things he said to me was that, look, for them at the time, their minutes are published unedited, right? The Monetary Policy Committee's minutes are published unedited, not like ours that is edited. It's published unedited. And then besides that, they hold the government in proper check. They will make sure that, look, whatever it says that government is doing, because government obviously would like to splurge, because they hold the fiscal, and they would like to do things that they can never don't dream to do if they were using their own money. So it says something very important that, look, if your central bank now mimics the behavior of your government, the central bank is gone. It's lost it. You need central bank governance who can be, even though, yes, independence is a myth sometimes, but once there's that element of independence, even though it was appointed by the government or the president, your technical skills must really speak for yourself. There may be times that the government may try to rub shoulder and say, I'll do this, I'll do that, like COVID and all of that. Yes. I think it was on the COVID time that they completely lost it, because then the government used the COVID as a ruse in order to say, oh, give me the opportunity to splurge. And I think Parliament agreed. But from then on, the central bank started losing control. And they lost control and lost control and decided to be part of the losing control by spending unwisely by themselves. And I don't understand how a central bank can be spending money in the terms that they saw, I saw spending. Yes, I can understand that there are technical staff that are competent and may be paid. But your competency must reflect in the economic lives of people. So if you are now superintending and wasting all this money and we are not seeing it in the way it's impacting on the fiscal, you failed. Simple. So there's no way to talk and dance around this matter. Essentially, that is what it is. And I think the central bank governor should be called to parliament and grilled properly, like the UK would do to their governor that they normally would do. They normally would have done. I think they normally do those things as well. So that if you lose that control between monetary and fiscal, you've completely lost it. And unfortunately, Addison seems to be has completely lost the plot. Unfortunately.
And immediately you lose the plot in this kind of situation for a central bank governor, then perhaps you would agree with those who suggest that then he has no business in office.
Well, the question we should be asking ourselves is there the assumption that whoever is appointed will start singing a different hymn? Do you think there's somebody seriously right now within this administration or that the president will ever dream of appointing that will come and sing from a different hymn sheet? Addison was the best bet. Sadly, seriously, Addison was one of the best. But I think he was overwhelmed, completely overwhelmed by the demands of the government, and that's what really happened. I don't see anybody who will be appointed right now. I know people who could be appointed who will not sing praises, sing those type of hymns. But would my good friend Nanado ever appoint somebody like that? Don't forget, this man has not reshuffled this. No serious reshuffle has been done in 7 years. So I don't see him doing any of such things. Not at all. No, certainly not at all. So it's not a question about resignation. It's about accepting oneself. That's what should be done. I don't know who the deputies really are, and I rather not even conjecture, but I think getting somebody else must be somebody much tougher, who will say, hey, I don't like this thing. But who in Akufo-Addo's administration can never stand up to him, really? I don't see anybody.
Then, on the media budget review, did you hear anything that excited you?
Well, except to say that there's not going to be additional supplementary budget. And heck of it, really. I mean, what was the point in going to ask for additional money by the Facebook to do what? You now you are broke. You've been shut out of the international market. So you coming not asking for additional money was comforting enough, but it is the reality, really. And the revision of those figures of about 227 billion expenditure, about 206 billion. Some think it is small mercy. It's not really small mercy. It's actually the sensible thing to have it done because there's no money to do it anyway. Except me, you're probably trying to be borrowing and borrowing. And I know T-bill seems to be the darling of the finance ministry. I don't know when that dream would also fade, but clearly the only thing I had which was exciting was the fact that there's not going to be additional money being asked by the central government to do the things that it wants to do. Otherwise, what else did I hear? Something else. I think something that had to do. This one that had to do with procurement again. But even then, that's a small screen really for talking a bit of nonsense really. Because for me, the point is, look, this whole thing about procurement being done, people will be paid until they've delivered proper set works. It's been there. It's in the law. If somebody doesn't deliver work, having won a procurement, they don't get paid anyway. So it wasn't new. I don't even know why I'm mentioning it. I think because it's been a while now. Because that was mentioned, then I seem to be happy. That's what happens to the human mind, right? If you've been starved for so long, when you hear of some little nutritious food, then your brain becomes activated, and you've forgotten that you were actually eating much better meals than that. But anyway, let's just say that was also said, and I hope that is done. The annoying thing about my good friend Ken is that when he said he was not going to go to the IMF and all of that thing, when they were told to, install or passed the Public Officers Code Conduct stuff. They said they would do it, right? As we speak, it's not being done. You know, they told the IMF they would do some of the things. This IMF thing is an interesting, but it's interesting. You know, I told the last time that the government shouldn't have rushed to leave the IMF deal that John entered into quite early when they did it in 2019. It was premature. So COVID was a good omen, really. If COVID had not happened, we would not have seen the holes that have been created. Let's not buy. Let's completely stop buying this whole narrative that the global headwinds. Yes, global headwinds affect everybody, and I'm sure Ghanaians are wide awake by now to know that even though global winds occurred and held at houses in every part of this continent, there's no African country right now whose inflation is about 42%. Maybe Sudan, maybe those places where there are wars, or maybe a few of them. But I don't know of any African country. Let's check Sudan, because for all you know, the war can be good for an economy. By the way, sadly, I'm saying this, right? Apart from people who are killed. So let's look at the inflation rate in Sudan as we speak. That's if they're even still measuring that. And let's ask ourselves whether this whole thing makes sense. All the economic indicators were looking up. Senegal had 7% at the time. Kenya under 10% inflation. You alone, you went to 52, and you said we should clap for you because there were headwinds everywhere. No, it's not the case at all. It's not the case at all. So the media budget stuff, the indicators the government set for itself, so were all missed. So there you are. I don't see any turning around, and I don't see the only exciting thing I said was not asking for additional money.
And I have to leave you, but before we do that, I realize you've been excited about the whole Cecilia Dapa matter and paying close attention. I'm guessing you are also monitoring the new twist with the AG's opinion on the docket and everything that has been done by the police so far. What do you think?
You know, for the AG, I think they are just exasperated and trying to make it look as if they are serious. Apart from persecuting people, which has become the pride of place of the AG, this whole thing about latching on to this, maybe, yeah, it's giving us some few insights into what otherwise should have been a serious AG. But that's what is demanded of a proper AG. That wants to show that even though he's Minister for Justice and still time Attorney General, if something happens to one of their own, they can actually prosecute. Yes, but the matter has actually bolted away. The way we should be looking at this matter is not the sweetness and the bravado which is being done by OSP, this, AG, this. The question is, characteristically, has this administration been able to fight corruption? The answer is no. Not at all. Because a lot of the things that have happened, procurement related, all this stuff, trust me, I'm sure there are many other people who have stashed money along there, so many places. I mean, one of my in-laws used to do some work for a minister. I won't mention the name. And of course, found stash of money in his house. So much so that he was wondering whether every minister does that, really. You know, so these things, okay, they are happening all the time. And of course, as someone said, this is hypocritical to suggest that politicians don't hide money. So rather than answer your question directly to say that the charge sheet shows that there's some inconsistency and all of that, there has been an inconsistency in the way this administration has actually dealt with the matter of graft, high graft. I don't see anything from procurement. You know, we analyzed over 1,000 procurement cases under this administration. Over 90% of them were problematic. I mean, so, you know, when I'm being now told that, okay, the AG is running around doing this, is finding inconsistencies, is the least a good lawyer would do, right? Any lawyer can look at what has been done and point out those inconsistencies. As far as we are concerned, that's what has been done. The fact that it was not done by anybody only shows that, well, of course, if you are not charged with the matters of state as a prosecutor, state prosecutor, you don't get into this anyway. And I think the police itself would have helped the cause and helping the cause to see all these inconsistencies. So that was basic work. any good prosecutor, state prosecutor, can do that work. So I don't know whether I should be singing or jumping that the Attorney General has found something interesting, or somebody said he found something monumental. Was it the OSP that said they found something interesting and all of that? We are waiting to hear all of that. But none of this excites me. For me, you don't do such things and excite me. It's not going to happen because I've seen so much. The point I'm making is that if the dogged nature with which the Attorney General seems to be working on this matter is to ensure that everybody will say, there they go. Even one of their own, they did it well, like John did. It's not there. It's not there yet. Let's not fool ourselves. There's nothing really happening here. Any basic, even somebody, a day's lawyer at the AG can point these things out anyway. So I'm not excited. I only see that I'm getting a lot of cantata value listening to all that is happening, and I'm enjoying myself because in this town, apart from my good friend, he's not my friend. I don't know him, but I like him watching him on TV. Pastor Cash, who entertains a lot of people. If you want real entertainment, apart from Uncle Bo White and the likes of those comedy people who do comedy, I think this is one of the latest entrants into the comedy trade. This whole Cecilia Dapa saga, where somebody said 800,000 was seen in a box, and then somebody was dead, and they gave it to me. It doesn't even. I don't think even my 9-year-old girl would even write a story like this. It doesn't pass beyond even the proper cantata. So let's enjoy the joke as it lasts. But as far as it goes, when it comes to the issue about being serious about anything related to the matters of high public graft, I think this is just one of those entertainment values. I don't see anything aside from laughing about it, really.